A show that tackles the big issues affecting the BVI and the rest of the Caribbean. Searches for answers to today's big questions and gives viewers a unique perspective on developing stories. Follow the big story with me, Kathy Richards, only on GTV. This show is brought to you by the National Bank of the Virgin Islands, Cyril B. Romney Tertola Pier Park, NV Salon, Nail Spa and Barbershop, Tisley Cross Deliciously Smooth Cider, and Digicel, simply more speed, reliability and entertainment.
Tisley Cross Cider. Tisley Cross Cider. Deliciously smooth.
This is The Big Story. I'm Kathy Richards. I want to thank you so much for joining us for the very first big story after all the festivities for this year's Emancipation celebration. I hope you had a great time. I did, and we did as much as we possibly could have to bring you at home and away what was happening here in the territory. So on that note, happy after Emancipation. My first guest for this season is none other than the Honorable Hon Malone, territorial at-large representative. It's such a pleasure. We were to do this a little bit while we were in the festive season, and we decided, let's hold it back a little bit. How have you been?
Well, first of all, I'd like to say thank you very much for having me once again on The Big Story. We have a lot to be thankful for. We were able to host for after 2 years suspension, the particular festival activities, a rise and shine like I've never seen before. Two rise and shine like I've never seen before, and almost, I think, incident free in terms of violence. And we must give the people thanks for for being so cooperative in making sure that we have it. I think the message is out there, what the actual celebration is all about, and the Emancipation Anniversary celebrations must be kept in focus as we go into the other phase. But before we start, we must also give kudos to all of the Commonwealth participants, and particularly to our gold medal. Yes, gold medal.
Time holding on to that.
That is correct. You've made the country proud, and those who are also in the other games, World Games and so forth, so that we have, as one person have put it, punched above our weight in terms of what we've been doing and the accomplishments that we've had. And I think that it all goes towards a particular territory with resolve, making sure that we are best at whatever we put our minds to.
Yeah, and on that note, I know that's not the subject of our discourse today, but we need to quickly push that in. I was so happy to see Eldred Henry return to his sport after being injured for quite some time, since 2019, I think.
Yes.
And then he was there at a reception that the minister had, talking about how it made them feel to see, people from the Virgin Islands out there supporting, and that was a big plus, which tells us, plan our vacations around these big events, go support our athletes. But we're going to switch into
first, before you go there, did you hear the musical rendition of a territorial song?
Boy!
When you hear the musical rendition, and it's all written, Ayana and Nell and Kareem, and then you had Alton Bertie, who actually composed that musical part of it.
But I would have loved to hear. I would have loved to hear our girl's voice singing it out.
Well, yes, yes, but On the medal celebrations, they normally do the
just
instrument.
the instrumental
That's
part
right.
of it. That was
Yeah.
awesome.
It was
A great
awesome.
accomplishment for
Thank
our
you.
territory. But we must move on
Okay, good.
into the political realm of our discussion today.
Yes.
You have been saying and working towards certain angles of when we get to that stage of constitutional review. You have come up with a one Virgin Islands action package. Give us a little insight as to where you were going with this and why do you see it so necessary that you take the route that you have decided to?
Okay, fine. Thank you very much for inviting me to talk more about what we have envisaged. Since we've had the 8th Constitution of the Virgin Islands from back in '67, we have been talking about where the Virgin Islands need to be going. We looked at it through our reviews on the 9th, 10th, 11th, the last one being 2007 or 11th Constitution, and we're about to look in terms of the review of the 12th. And when we look at what all we have been going through from 2012 straight up, especially with the protocols for effective financial management, with the storms, with the particular COI, with all of what we've had to endure, we have to look and define, do we want to continue to fight against everything thrown at us? Or do we want to really have a defined agenda for the Virgin Islands?
When you say fight against everything that is thrown at us, are we talking about amongst ourselves, what is thrown at us amongst ourselves, or what is thrown at us by the United Kingdom?
Well, it's not only the United Kingdom, because unless we develop an agenda, then whatever anyone else brings to us, we then have to redefine it to fit our particular purpose. We always have to work from behind, trying to see what they say, trying to defend against it. Whether it's the United Kingdom, whether it's in a regional body, and more damaging is between ourselves. We have to define whether or not the Westminster system of governance, for instance, is the best system for us. We are trying with the unity government approach to see whether or not that has any merit. It has its perils in St. Martin, has its perils in St. Kitts, has its perils in Israel, has its perils in different places. They have tried the combination, one government type approach, coalition, in terms of government, and there's some challenges. So the time has come now that the resilient and resolute people of the Virgin Islands is being called to action and must be prepared to embrace the challenges of constructing a framework of a One Virgin Islands agenda, an agenda for sustainable socio-economic development and political advancement. The 2007 Constitution Review, with 7 defined terms and references, and a membership of 9 individuals established solely at the time by the then Virgin Islands Legislative Council, was conducted against the backdrop of the United Kingdom's 1999 White Paper on Partnership for Progress and Prosperity. This White Paper was intended to usher in a new approach in the relationship between Britain and the overseas territories. It lays out for the first time the principles which are to underlie and govern that relationship. This modern partnership was to be rooted in the 4 fundamental principles of self-determination, mutual obligations and responsibilities, freedom for the territories to run their own affairs to the greatest degree possible, and a firm commitment for the UK to help the territories develop economically and to assist them in terms of emergencies. When we look at what we've accomplished, the 2007 Commission, at the conclusion of their review, submitted 116 recommendations, the majority of which, with noted exceptions, were accepted and enshrined in the Constitution of 2007. It was envisaged that future reviews of the order would enhance the philosophy developed and agreed in 2007, and certainly will not regress. A 2022 Constitution Review Commission is now being established to review the Virgin Islands Constitution Order and will consist of a 16-member body with terms and conditions to be mutually agreed between the governor and the premier. It is being conducted in the shadows of numerous local, regional, and international challenges and concerns that are likely to affect or influence the outcome of the final recommendations. It was Albert Einstein who wrote that in the midst of every crisis lies great opportunities. And it was Martin Luther King who wrote that there is a fast urgency of now. Let us then urgently grab this opportunity with hands as one. For if not now, when? And if not us, who? In the conduct of the exercise, we must recognize that we have already started laying the foundation for a one VI agenda transformation. Maximum use must be made of our population and its diverse human resources and studies, and plans such as the Vision 2036, Building a Sustainable Virgin Islands, the National Sustainable Development Plan of the Citizens of the Virgin Islands by Dr. June Soma, and supported by the United Nations Economic Commission for Latin America and the Caribbean. The Virgin Islands Assessment of Self-Governance Sufficiency in conformity with the international recognized standards for the Virgin Islands by Carlyle G. Corbin, International Advisor on Governance. Analysis of the cost of independence by Mr. Douglas Wheatley. The BVI Medium-Term Fiscal Plan as enshrined in the 2012 Protocol for Effective Financial Management, demonstrating government's commitment to medium-term planning, value for money, risk management, and accountability. In the Virgin Islands, we must not allow the story, the narrative that inspires and governs the conduct of the 2022 review of the Virgin Islands Constitution Order to be orchestrated and dominated by others. We must tell our own story, lest we suffer the perils of having others distort our rich legacy and that of our legacy builders who have fiercely fought and have triumphantly succeeded. Their vision must be upheld and the baton passed to future generations.
Well put together statement there that we've had the opportunity to hear on this platform first.
Yes.
But you talked there a little bit about some things being done in the shadow that should not be allowed to happen.
Yes.
You want to expound a little bit about that?
Well, what has happened is this. When we talk about the shadows, I'm oft accused of being philosophical in how I put things up. 10 cows in the road. Minding the fox when the shepherd is the one eating you. But we cannot lose sight that in this constitutional review, we are coming on the heels of a particular COI, Commission of Inquiry report, with 49 recommendations. But I've held, and it is open secret, that I am not pleased with how the story of that constitution review was set up, of that particular Commission of Inquiry.
As a legislator, hadn't you a voice?
Well, we have a voice in terms of the particular Commission of Inquiry, because the Commission of Inquiry was one which was going to be upheld by the sole commissioner. Mm-hmm. And how it was conducted was his particular area. We have had Withers and Sir Jahphix Cox engaged them to look at the review of the entire documentation. Mm-hmm. So at the end of it, we can have a particular review of the reviewer.
Yes.
I have put on record that we must get that report.
Why are we not seeing it?
Well, we're not seeing it because, as the Premier have indicated in his answer to the question, he is of the opinion that once we had agreed to the 49 terms and conditions and set on the road to making sure that they were all implemented, we did not need to know anything else.
But suffice to say, you would have engaged an entity to do a particular job. While it is that yes, you would have agreed to the 45 recommendations, wouldn't it be of some use to still have that comparison to see what the other side is saying as opposed to the other party, which would have been the COI?
Well, it is critical that we do that because I had note when I appeared on the 21st of June before the commission, I left a note which says that the findings of this commission would assist us in setting the stage for political advancement. But it is only if we have a case stated by the COI and one by what we paid for, $8 million later, if we get that, we can then compare the two and see where this is. Because we are allowing others to tell our story all the time. We have a story of success. We have a story of boat builders. We have a story of those who, after we were left to fend for ourselves back in the day, we had to send our people to St. Thomas and to Dominican Republic and to Aruba and sail the seas so they can feed their families. They came back. They built the Virgin Islands. They built it into where we were able to get roads from east to west. Where it took you 2-3 days to get from East End to West End, it now take you 20 minutes, 25 minutes. Well, you drive so fast, it might be 5 minutes. But the whole thing is... But what it is that we were able to build primary schools, free education, secondary school, free education, tertiary education, build the structures for them. We're able to, we celebrated 100 years of medical buildings, in terms of the People's, or the Cottage Hospital back then. 100 years since then, this year.
Okay.
And we built the People's Hospital, we built the D. Orlando Smith Hospital, we built the clinic over in Iris O'Neil Clinic over in Virgin Gorda. We built these. And we have a success story that we must tell. It is not about us being drug runners, pilferages, and all the other story that others have set up this particular constitution review to be centered around.
But Honorable Malone, while we have the Commission of Inquiry coming out with a report and saying X, Y, Z, which is they saying, setting up our narrative, we've also said, which when I say we've, I'm talking about the Virgin Islands, keep saying that these are things that we knew, these are things that we have been saying about ourselves, but the problem was that we have not found the courage in ourselves to fix it, to action it. So what the Commission of Inquiry has done, it's not saying anything new that we did not know or haven't been saying. What they have done is put us in a position to put into action what needs to be put in place, what needs to be corrected, and what needs to be improved.
Yes.
So how, if that is the case, are our narratives being written by someone else?
Well, what I'm saying to you is this, right? We have had a case where in the 8th, and it is so enlightening when you do the research. Since 1966, 67, we've had a case where if we wanted to move the economics of this country forward, we had to move away from a crown government type of stuff to a representative government. This is why the ministerial system came in. The economy shut off from the time that happened up to now, and so forth. We have left, there were 6 areas of specific responsibilities left under the governor's office. That of the civil service, that of the courts, that of the external security, and there are 2 more that were in there, including finance. Finance was moved away in 74, and we had our 40th anniversary celebrations, as you may remember, and coming up on the 50th soon, right? So what I'm saying is that when you look at all of this, and this is why the particular area of the 2007 Constitution, which states that the UK had a specific task of making sure that it built a civil service that can attend to the need and the development of our territory over the years. And you can say, you can have your different comments about it, whether it is a failed, whether it is nimbling along, whether there are improvements needed. I would say that there are improvements that must be looked at. This is why the report of the Withers-Cox report is very important, because they sought to pinpoint these particular type of areas, and I would not have to be here trying to bring them into record. The report that we paid for will show where the British government, through the governor's office, have failed to uphold their part of the bargain in almost every area that they held responsibility for.
How are you so confident that is what the report is going to be?
I'm not saying I'm confident. I'm saying that at the end of the day, when we were going through, and I had concerns about us not defending some of the things that were coming out and so forth, right? I said, well, look, we have to do this, but I was assured that they're looking at all aspects. Did the governor's office, did the British, did the Foreign and Common Development Office uphold their part of the bargain under the areas of responsibility? You tell me whether or not we have a quote-unquote police department that has functioned to the best of their ability.
And that's one of the areas that the COI did not really focus in.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Well, which our report would have had to zero in on. Because if you're looking in protection of the borders, who's responsible for that? If you're looking in terms of civil service, who's responsible? If we have any areas in terms of whether it is the registration of interest, the courts, or any of the registries, who's responsible for them? And all of these areas that are being cited, although they need to be brought into conformity, I'm given a 48-month assignment. 4 years out of what we now have as 55 years since the ministerial government. How can I be looked at as being responsible for all of what took place the actual 51 years before me?
And has these things contributed to your decision to not sit on the side of the unity government, but rather on the opposition?
Well, what contributed to that is the fact that I am not of the opinion that enough information is going out to the population. I'm not of the opinion that the population is fully aware of what we're faced with. I am not of the opinion that enough effort is being made to make sure that before decisions are made on behalf of the people, that they are well informed with all of the options. We, for instance, were handed a particular Constitution Interim Amendment Order 2022, laid before Parliament on the 9th of June 2022. Honorable Fraser highlighted some of the areas, but we're still in the dark as to what all this really means to us.
But wouldn't you agree that you would make a greater impact if you are within the House?
I'm in the House.
Well, not House of Assembly, well, in the body, in the unity government, to scream it louder. As a member of the opposition, your voice is limited in some sense. If you're in the body, within the unity government, you have a greater chance at having your voice heard. You have a greater chance at being able to disseminate more information. You have a greater chance of being involved in the core decision making of the territory.
Well, let's put it this way, and I'll try to be as subtle as possible.
No, just be real.
I'll be real. I have explored all of the options for getting the message out. I do not intend to be at odds with leadership within the unity government. Their approach is one in which I have some concerns about. I stated this is no secret. Their approach is some which I have concerns about. We are going towards the same goal, I would say. But how you approach it is very different than how I would love to approach it. I love to approach it where I give more information, not less. I give information before, not after. I give information which will help you to get all of the particular decisions that you have to make. I don't want to fight for anything that the voter don't want for themselves.
Were you able to do more of what you say you want to do under the Andrew Foy-led administration?
Well, I'm not here to compare anything.
No. Well, we're trying to understand.
No, listen
we're trying
to me
to
carefully.
understand
Right, listen to me carefully.
your point.
Listen to me carefully. The whole concept of collective responsibility is what the UK themselves are coming to grip with. Sonic left the particular administration saying that there are things that, because of the collective responsibility arena, he was limited in terms of pinpointing. He cannot go against the philosophy of leadership in terms of how they wanted to get it out and so forth. We are where we are today. And my focus is on tomorrow. My focus is on making sure that we stop that we reduce our efforts in terms of fighting against everything thrown to us and help to define what is it that we want. Do we know what we want? Is my question to the open public. Can we define what we want? Can we define when we want it, how we want it, so that we can then move towards this in one accord?
As a member of the opposition, how are you being able to now reach the people to help them to come to that place of understanding just what you think we need to understand?
Well, first of all, we had to help to define a particular agenda so that we can then lay it out. This is a people's agenda. The Virgin Islands agenda is one which is intended to incorporate. We have a number of lawyers that are studying in the UK, the US, Canada, all over. We have to get the young folks in. We have a number of economists that are studying, that are here. We have to get them in. We have a number of civil activists. We have to get them in. We have a number of persons from east to west, north to south of this territory who are keen about making sure that their voices are heard. But it must be done in a structured way, because you can call a march tomorrow, a march on Wednesday, and two on Sunday. Unless the population is fully aware as to what they are marching for, what the goals are, when do we define what is victory? Then we will be marching until we can't march anymore.
Okay. And we were coming down on the clock, and I have two more points that I want us to talk about. You talk about, you've looked at a number of countries where a unity government, a coalition government, is not working, has not
have its
worked,
challenges.
Have its challenges. Have you compared their conditions of having a coalition government to that of ours? If so, is ours similar to theirs?
Well, I look at it only in terms of St. Martin. They have hardly been able to return a particular majority of any one party to form a government. So they've always had to use 2 or 3 parties in order to form the particular government. So they try to fit a model into, I think it's the Westminster system also. Mm-hmm. But when you fit it and the philosophies begin to clash, mm-hmm. then every 2 years they're to the polls again. That I don't see that as the resetting and restarting every 2 years as being progressive. They will have to say, I can't say. But I'm saying, let me look at it. If you look at the government that was formed in St. Kitts Nevis, yes, they went through a full term. There were agreements made, agreements not honored, and it led to the fall of a government and new election. They now have a majority in terms of one party having a majority. Slim as it is a majority. But they'll have to now decide how they can keep the front bench, back bench, and all benches satisfied so that we can then move towards a full 5 years without the kind of disruption that it offers. Well, I wouldn't even talk about Israel, because every year they have elections because they cannot return a majority.
But I asked for the comparison simply because, in my view and from the little I know, our conditions are totally different. We are due a general elections at least by May of 2023, if there is no by-election, which can be called very soon, which tells us that this unity government has a very short lifespan. There is no hard and fast situation which will say to this that, this is where we have to continue going for another term, it's just a limited period. The people of the Virgin Islands, the voting population, will have their opportunity to now vote back a regular government system as opposed to a unity government.
Well, before we reach even the general election, I will put it to you that we have what it has. We have an order that has been laid in Parliament of the United Kingdom.
That was the other part I was going to come to you with.
We have an order which has been laid And basically, the governor has clearly stated that unless each and every one of the conditions that were agreed are adhered to and not retarded or put in place, then he can wake up one morning, call the office, have it gazetted, proclamation through gazette, and that is done. They would not have to go back to the House of Parliament. You asked the question the other day, did you seek to get it off? I would put it to you that even if you seek to get it off, you would not get it off.
And why not?
Well, I'll put it to you that we have, the UK was on this march. I told you before, in 2021, it was a commission of inquiry conclusion waiting for 6 months of actually interviews. The conclusion was made. This is the path that they intend to go with all of this. What we've done here also is that most of the suggestions for changes to the Constitution is now being embedded in the terms of reference of the new Constitution review. What I will put it to you is that the answers to what we're asking the Constitution Commission to look at has already been suggested by the commissioner. So we have terms of reference that are not new. They have been developed. Answers to them that are not new, they have been proposed. And a commission which will now have to look to fight and an agreement to implement all of the 49. So if there is something in there that differs from what the population want, how then do we reconcile that other than enforcement through this particular amendment order?
Okay, Honorable Malone, in closing up and wrapping up here, what do we do as a people of the Virgin Islands?
I thought you'll never ask. We have to get together as one so we can help to define what it is that we want, so that we can fight for what we want, as opposed to fighting against what the UK is suggesting. We have to fight for. It is a heavy ask, that we are looking at, because when you ask people to define what you want, it's the most difficult question that folks have to answer. But it must be answered, because we would not be able to define. If you go in to play any sport that has been developed by someone, orchestrated by someone, the rules of change could only be made by that person, how can you ever win that sport? You have to change the game. You have to define what you want, so that we can then move towards this. This, when we read, because I will be inviting everyone to read from front page to back page the 2022 number 627, the Virgin Islands Constitution Interim Amendment Order 2022, so that they can get a feel for exactly where we are. When you do, you can read it in concert with the summary of recommendations, with the agreements that have been made, and see if there's anything. Yes, we are 33%, 40%, 60% along the way. But the topics of concerns will soon show themselves. And we have to then decide how we reconcile these.
And we all have a responsibility in helping that to
We
be
must.
digested, because, we have such a great population that don't care to read, and if there are some who, even though if you read, you do not understand the intricacies that you are reading, that are compiled there in a document. So PR is great, being out there and being able to help people to understand what actually is, because sometimes you read something 10 times and you still don't grasp what is it you're reading about. So
And this is where I
love
lend
PRs.
myself to be able to look at these one by one, two by two, because there are some great things in here. But when you look, they have 49 numbered, but there were 72 recommendations made. We have to look in terms of what it is, because at the end of the day, it is what you miss is what will hurt you.
Yeah, I agree.
So we have to do, because the 2007 Constitution, as I read, and I wanted to read it in, was one in which there was a direct philosophy of assisting us to move forward.
Okay.
It was more substantive in the terms of references. This is more administrative. This one here is more administrative. How do how do we redefine stuff. It even goes as far, based on this order, it pushes us back to 1966, before ministerial government, because it takes it away from the particular country. It gives it in the hands of a governor, and he is empowered to form a particular review body, establish an advisory council that will then make the decisions, all of what cabinet would have made, all of what the House of Assembly would make, so that if there are any areas of disagreement that he feels that FDCO, Foreign Development Common Office, want in there, then he'll take it out your hand altogether, have it done, I have said, for a day, for 5 days, for a month, put them in, and then give you back the order.
Okay.
And if this is what people want, well, this is what they have. Then my fight is shorter. Because if this is what you want, this is what you have.
You can fight for what is the better thing, the best thing for the people of this Virgin Islands as a whole, so that we could rather go forward and not backward. Honorable Malone, I want to thank you so much for taking such good time this morning, this afternoon, this evening, whenever it is being aired, or whenever you're looking at it, to share such in-depth information with us. And I trust that you continue to use the platform to educate so that we can go forward to where we want to be. I want to thank you so much for taking time for joining us for this edition of The Big Story. I'm Kathy Richards.